Hello, my world of Sasa. My world of Sasa is based upon the transversal of a Panang Tansan because in relation to the third way, the Makanang, Bakalo, Dalalal, or whatever it is, it will separate into a Makanang because in that way, if it corresponds with the network of the fifth revision to support the SOPRO, then the design way is an instrument to know how come the lecturation of the pistol has not been functioning into the ordering system. Because in that way, if it is, then the confunction of the next matlang is a revision to support the Soha. And in that way, if there is a signal into the platform of area 56 and area 55 is a signal of the platform of Onong Sangsang. Because based upon that way, the intellectual copy tissue of a Maganang will actually be pinning out into the Klokono. And in this way, the correspondence of the network is that the OP3326 and OP3301 is Agnang. Developer Shah Stocking Star Impul XT3X. In this way, the magnetic aglalang will be participating into the aura and to confunction the aura. And in the confunction of the aura, the flexible degradation of a form will actually be wa and 2 on 4. But the reversity of the intuition of the mind is that once we need to know how the mind works, is that the brain capacity of the instrument is to Taisa, the fifth revision to support the Sopro. And in this manner of time, when you support the Sopro, it is the Nganang of Polon Cochon, because based upon the instrument of the Pixon by Charles Angel, now by something in relation to the deployment of Istonum. And the deployment of Istonum is one of these stars in relation to the Plexon of the Plala. And in this way, this one is 5C, 6C, 2C, 1C, 12C plus 21, all long. Witches of Craft. The confunction of the Witches of Craft is an equala in relation to the Pisino and also to Polongon. And in this way, if there is a plankang of the Makala, then the Shah will actually mature itself into the conjunction of knowing how to introduce the Pokolong. And in that way, if there is a third amount of Ono fiber, and the Ono fiber is an instrument of knowing how to polar, the instrument of knowing how to institute the Elong. And the Elong is one of the most maximal number of polo in relation to a Parkasan and also to data the next data canal. Li O sister Plim. In this way, the gra will actually map itself into the pointer of the Bucano and to position itself into the correspondence of the network. And in that time, if there is a maturity to understand the nominal, we need to position ourselves into the compliance of Mikrolon. And in that time, it is Sunday. ND2 Fei. In this way, the maximum number of protocol will actually align itself into the fifth element, because when it does that, the key A whole is electron of the electron atogon, something like that. Those things tires me out because my speech. But in that time, when the overwhelming external of the pistol, we can also nonna this way. 9, 2, 1. Grid. Sigma. I'll back in a minute. In this time, Sefang, it is the instrument of knowing the propriety. And the propriety of the instrument is a paucity, of a blulu in relation to the third amount of sansan. Because in this way, the relationship to higher the instrument of knowing how to intake the fifth alala, these stars, is the tl perlan of dibel. Not dibel, but dibel. And in dibel, the sound of the star will actually fire itself into another planet to actually grow into another symptom of Simakrulon, because that's how one of the creator works out how it joins together before it bursts and round, sort of. But in relation to bevel and oval, the instrument of Platis is that when we instruct the formula to develop the spaceship, we need to shang the Fivolo in relation to Mona Lisa and also to degrade in this star, or my best friend, the starfish. But in that way, the diddle, first word, the diddle is one of the beautiful sound by the star. If it does that, it will alka, like so, into the forces of like that inlay, because the fifth way it goes, it will intercute itself into the mistletoe by the dilno, which is a sound. So in that way, if there is a conjunction of math position in relation to the dark crystal, the digudlu is the ekadolono to help others to understand that the life cycle is re-lindong, the midnight of Saya. And in that way, of Saya is a condition of Milkashno to participate into the autopsy. Is it? I don't know. The confunction of autopsy is that the instrument of knowing that when the skeleton is the malalo in relation to the deployment of an emission, the Bilkishno will actually participate into this compound, because each star from demons and dungeons, if it can open into Luthor, then how can it reveal to know where to pound the Bilkishno and to participate into the Olon? And in that way, if this autopsy is the metronome of the minimum amount of data, then the position of this autopsy is a chrono to participate in when we become this. And when we become this, that's all we are when we pass. And in that time, we can also share into the menana of the fifth revision to support the soul blaster and to income the design by overwhelming football players. And in that time, when you share into this star, the Tutulon, of the dilacan and the sutana or the dilable is the way you become super. That's it. So in that way, the way you become super is an integral of knowing how to produce the sha. And when you produce the sha, it is the inconsistent of a form and to position yourself into the achapan. And in that way, the autopsy need to work out that your bones are well calcium, is it? Which is normal by Gary's mother, the milk. But in what way is the cow eating grass to know which kind of grass that when they give you milk is the curriculum of. So when they eat start, do they poo? And when they poo, they give you milk. So which one? So why Eden is one of the most method way to know that the milk is safety, because lately there's cheap milk like $3 and stuff like that. But when you work out by the farmer, or I don't know what you call it, you know, the cow, in that way, if there is a milk by the grass, what kind of grass do they eat very well to poo? And what kind of poo do they poo for milk to appear? Because there's black dog poo poo around when I walk. So why? What kind of pelvic? Yes, not pelvic, but pelvic by the female cow to give you poo. Yes. Does it stink? No. So in that way, this autopsy is that the concentrant of Cal, Cal32L and Cal33Ulo, Öle is Öe Ökono. So when they brief the cow, the brief, what kind of farmer utilizes the milk to methylizing mentoxin by methyl. Yeah, and in that way, if it converts itself into the endocrine that the cow will be separated into a revision to support the penny. And in that time, when the cow actually will eat the milkshake, yes, and in that time, once we reverse into the intuition of the milk to drink well, I don't know what else, drink well, then how will our bone last to the end of our day? And then the next episode is, did I see Buddha with skeleton in the picture at where I used to work? I don't remember if I downloaded it. So how does he become that? Because he was on a diet, apparently. But when you're on a diet, you become all skinny like that and your bone shows up. So in that way, if we can rotten the meditation of this decoy, then the proxon of Buddha is a kolokono. So in that way, when it fades into that skeleton, how long will it last into the graveyard and knowing that it's not even ours, it's yours? And in that time, the autopsy is the mligaton to participate into a kolokono by Ikulu and Kuchtono, Badikatono, participating into Alala and Mona Lisa. So in that way, when our skeleton becomes calcium, which bones will become the semacraton of Mitis? And in that time, when the bones becomes that, when we do sports, how many years will we last? What age? Because when you end up with injuries, broken legs, feet, etc., arms, hand arms, ankle, I don't know what you call them. But in that way, what's going to happen? How long would you last in playing sports? Because in the past, I see on TV that young people start. And how old would the next one finalize? No, start. And how old would the next one start? But in that way, with the tab, yes, do they scheme how to vote? Yes, the electron to form the gambler, to participate into crown, to align itself into the casino. and also to position itself into the T-bone. And in that time, with this autopsy, when you eat well, then how long will your dietary last for? When it maximizes the minimum of dietary. And in that time, when it does that, we can compromise the eatable by salang. And in salang, each what is that color? Is it black poo? I don't know. So when we pass, what color is our bone? You know what color is our bone? It's just silk. Silk? Yes, it's silk. Because it's silk, because it's not white, it's silk. It's silk because the way we used to be. And the way we used to be is that when it's silk, it won't last as long. It just goes off into continuum of karma. And in that time, when we review the support SOPRO based upon the autopsy, how can we review that on the day that our body dies off? What we can do? By funeral? Nah. By what? I don't know. Nothing to do with me. But in that time, when we have this autopsy, what we could know is that the sport player lasts longer in relation to calcium. That's normal, isn't it? Calcium? So in relation to calcium, Herbert Bagal, yes, for the LA and Kutanton of the hamburger to actually eat whatever you like to eat, beef, chick. Anyway, chick. Yeah, and in chick, or whatever, it is the convalescent of the citronal of the magnesium of the castella by the sea gas out of your bone. And in that time, my bone has gas. And in that time, the sequenal of that alignment of time, how can we separate into the detonal of the Balakanam by the semen season? And the semen season is that when we eat well, our fatty food will out into the hemorrhoids. Yes, the hemorrhoids. And in that time, when it has hemorrhoid, which virus will bacteria the hamstring to align itself into more muscle to run faster? And in that way, when it runs faster, the testimonial is that our skin changes. And when our skin changes, that the melang of the muscle fiber allocate the pull. And when it does that, when we pull, what color? So in that way, my dog's do number 2 is here and it goes white, but that's just the heat. So when it does that, what kind of bacteria is left over for the food we eat? And anti-sconol, that the food we poo. Which one? For the feces. And in relation to feces, would you like to get some more? Because the history of the dinosaur, do they have feces? Of course they do. And in that way, if you collect the dinosaur feces, how valuable would you know that the overdrone of the diploid is the feces? So in that way, if the feces is in the bone, is that the good macnilla or no, of drinks to stay there? So when we pass, based upon autopsy, will we work out who it is, or animals, or whatever it is? I don't know what that is. But if there's confusion of the telecanon, the metabolome is the media data in that feces. And in that feces, the metadata, media, oh, whatever, tired, and and in that time, when we separate into the metadata, is that the digital content is that this feces is that well boiled for good to know. So in that way, did not find something happened in US 4D tonight near that shop. Oh, yes. But in that time, when we deploy the items of overwhelm by Gulong and my grandpa, is that the democratic of the rice will share into the feces. And when it does that, we can also have pasta. But in relation to the pasta, but the wheat, how can we have the feces for not Ben Sherman? O'Brien. Is it Cheese O'Brien? The comedy? I don't remember. I just call it O'Brien. And in that time with O'Brien, what glass fiber? No, simple. No, oh no, I'm tired. What fiber will share into mosaic to know that I put it somewhere in the front door that the mosaic is that if we can autopsy the something to identify who, then we know that it died, not murder or missing, it died. But in so, if one of those are, then you will find the truth. And when you find the truth based upon the autopsy in this bone, what kind of things will we know how to sum the sound of the star, to allocate the sports, and to lippen, yes, the funny face, to menuno, yes, the feces in relation to aglakano. And in that way, when it goes somewhere in a toilet, how does it get refurbished for water to save our river? Because to save our academics, environmental well-age, we need to compromise our collection of this planet and in other planets as well, because the alien creator is here. And in that way, the water holder is that the overwhelming fertilization of rooster chick is a cataton of this fluid of calcium, which is ClFl15, ClFl35, and ClFl38 in relation to division of river. And in relation to the division of river is that this autopsy decoy into the metallation next time. Metallation of what? Monopiston. And the monopiston is that our urine is calcium in yellow or white, depending on what we drink, right? But the sports people, when you do that, how energy do you have to play for sports, and how long you will last into your sports? Because in that way, once you can energize the correct sugar by my grandma, then the inkanganang is that when you go pee-pee, it is nicely white. Does it mean it's solvable? No. It still smells. But based upon the law of the ilkadarang in your dick, yes, when you go to Toy Toy, how do you know that it's kalangsang of the limandano? No. Oh, I'm not a doctor. You test urine, don't you? But in that way, when you test your urine based upon TAC, you don't do that straight away. Of course you don't. I don't know. Or the drivers, they don't take peas straight away. Peas? Oh, good. So in that way, TAC We can't. Of course you can't. But in that way, if there is an overwhelming horsepower of Ferrari, then if you predict that he owns a fucking Ferrari, test his urine into the alcohol bus and let's see. Peace? Nah, just kidding. Sorry. But I'm honest. so, so in that way, once we review the sentences of the key in relation to our Ukraine, then the female is Lady Gaga to know Mona Lisa by Tutton of Yulong. And Yulong is that in each human, when we pee, if we wee into a different color, is it the plot of this autopsy? Because if it does not smell when we pass, is it us or everybody? And if it's us or everybody, then how can we flunk on into the ground floor of hose? And in relation of hose, if the water refresh into the river, how can we escape to garden dogs' pee-pees and cats' pee-pees? And in that way, if it approved by accumulation and apprenticeship in relation to mother tree, the lotus will form into the communication. But in the river, if ducks, birds, and what else does that? Fish, how flesh will we learn into the lotus to approve? So in that time, when it does not, we swim in the river, it is safe to eat fish by the river, fresh horsepower, or salty horsepower by zone. And in the horsepower, based upon Stalin and Stickman, it is a student of this autopsy to know that one day we'll become one of these. And in a matter of time, when we become one of these, the sequel of the Menegiton, yes, by Lord Luther, yes, is that is any of this dirty penis is a murderer. But since I'm honest, I like being murdered up my ass. If it fits in, straightforward, and the sperm goes all the way out of my fucking mouth, I appreciate that. It's disgusting, isn't it? See, if it does that, then it's complete turn on. But anyway, it's horrible. But in that time, based upon the schooner of Batman, disgusting penis. Sorry, just a joke. But anyway, in that time, if we can work out the autopsy based on the inking system of a formula, the ratio of this motor will simplify into impeller by God, by the wind of Mill. And the wind of Mill is a top secret by civil war. And the top secret by civil war is that if this autopsy is, yes, then how do we reproduce the top stamp by secretary that is been known of Supreme Court? And to compromise this by the angel. And once it will, we will all know, no, we will aura, no, we will something in relation to this autopsy. But in this autopsy is that when we get a new birth of animals, as well as Lord Luther, how do we know which one is which in relation to, Ethan? and dingo. Now, segmentation of plankton by this autopsy. So in that autopsy, it is the algorithm of autopsy, and to know how well will be gathered in relation to our percentages of secret ingredients. And in so, the secret ingredient is that Kung Fu Panda is an introduction of knowing how to salute into the British Army, to share into our birth of Gayton and Gayton and Gayton and Gayton and Gayton. And in that way, in Gayton, it is early on of knowing how pieces of soul can be together. And in that way, Reapers, communicating to the lotus, will allow you to picton, to siphon the transom, because in siphon the transom, the next plankton of this blah is the tuxno in relation to that. And in the tuxno of the secret ingredients is that when we allow this autopsy, the minimum amount of laboratory is allocating into your segmentation of British colony and grass. And in that time, when we division the autopsy in relation to the plankton, we know who is who. It is our society to communicate well off. And in that time, our community is the touchstone of POS, and to indicate cash machine, cashier. And in that time, the cash machine, cashier, is a chestnut to build. And in that way, to build that which nuts is allocating into our nutrition to prevent that autopsy. And in that time, we are ill of pigs in relation to Optus by the Gaganom, and to share into monthly, annually producta. And in producta, we all the autopsy in relation to stinky, and in stinky, which lung is this production of funny face, to know how to weld disability. And no more, maybe that I don't know. I don't want to know. I love learning. But anyway,